Imagine if you could maintain a firm hold of your operations from anywhere. Complete choice to find the perfect balance between work and freedom. As a leader, the significance of your role is unparalleled. That's why we make sure no matter where you are, your financial freedom is guaranteed. People's Bank Online Corporate Banking. Imagine business anywhere.
In a few moments, the news.
People's Bank Online Corporate Banking. Imagine business anywhere.
This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
The time is 6:15. Is the news edited by Dulmin Samrasinghe, read by Victor Raj. Here are the headlines of the local news. The central bank says Sri Lanka's economy shows signs of stability. United Arab Emirates and Sri Lanka discuss using renewable energy to meet the country's energy needs. Saudi Arabia agrees to recruit more Sri Lankans for construction and health sectors. State Minister Ranjit Sembalapati says more funds have been allocated by the budget for social welfare. Foreign news: the battle for control of Congress in the U.S. midterm elections is hanging in the balance. Sports news: Pakistan qualifies for the final of the T20 World Cup by beating New Zealand. Local news in detail. The Sri Lankan economy, which faced extreme headwinds and heightened uncertainty during the first half of 2022, has shown signs of stability in the second half of the year so far. The central bank said today it was helped by the myriad of multifaceted policy interventions undertaken to steer the economy to transition towards a path of stable and sustainable growth over the medium term. Although the economy was on a recovery path subsequent to the ebbing of the COVID-19 pandemic, its progress was muted by the culmination of the entrenched twin deficits in the government budget and external current account. Hence, the central bank said growth momentum observed towards the end of 2021 dissipated rapidly and the real economy fell into the contraction during the first half of 2022, driven by the spillover effects of the unprecedented economic crisis felt across several sectors. Ambassador of the United Arab Emirates to Sri Lanka, Khaled Nasser Al Amir, met Speaker Mahinda Abewardene yesterday. They elaborated on the increasing diplomatic relations between the two countries. There were discussions on the empowerment of both children and women, with a special focus at the empowerment of women in business. The ambassador of the United Arab Emirates to Sri Lanka also discussed how renewable energy can be used to meet the country's energy needs. Saudi Arabia has agreed to recruit more Sri Lankans for construction and health sectors. The decision has been taken during a meeting between the Minister Manusha Nanayakar and Saudi Arabia Social Development Minister Ahmad bin Suleiman yesterday. They are expecting to open many employment opportunities in the construction sector to Sri Lankans, which were limited earlier to Philippines and Bangladesh. This news comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
People's Bank Online Corporate Banking. Imagine business anywhere.
Continuing with more local news, two pronouncements under the Excise Ordinance, orders under the Finance Act, orders under the Foreign Exchange Act 3 regulations under the Export and Import Act and Value-Added Tax were debated in Parliament today. Taking part in the debate, State Minister Ranjit Singh said more funds have been allocated by the budget for social welfare. MP Lakshman Kiriyala said government's discussions with the IMF should be revealed in Parliament. MP Dr. Harsha De Silva said his party will not demand not to increase taxes. Opposition leader Sajid Premdas said that agreements with the IMF should be disclosed to the country. He requested the government not to deceive the people. MP Anuruddha Dashnayappa said in Parliament that people should be made aware correctly about the country's economic crisis. The health minister said a Sri Lankan who returned from Dubai, United Arab Emirates, has been diagnosed as the second monkeypox case reported in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka had detected its first case of monkeypox in a person who arrived from Dubai recently, and he is still recovering at the government hospital. The 20-year-old Sri Lankan had returned to the island on November 1st. The Ministry of Power and Energy says another 2,800 megawatts of power will be added to the national grid by the year 2026. This was disclosed during the monthly progress review meeting of the Ministry with the Electricity Board and Sustainable Energy Authority. Discussions have taken place on providing continuous electricity supply to tourism and industrial zones by next month. Minister Douglas Devananda said that last year the country earned $43 million through shrimp farming. He pointed out that in spite of the various challenges, 14,414 metric tons of shrimp have been exported in 2021. Secretary-General of the Parliament Dhammika Dasanayake said that it was decided to appoint a special committee consisting 4 members to further study and make recommendations regarding the establishment of the standing committees to be established. This was decided at the Committee on Parliament Business held yesterday. Accordingly, the Committee on Banking and Financial Services, the Committee on Ways and Means, the Committee on Economic Stabilization are expected to be established as new standing committees. The immigration and emigration process for passengers at the Katunayake Bandar Naik International Airport has been restored. The chairman of the Airport and Aviation Services said the computer system malfunction at the Immigration and Emigration section was rectified. That ends local news.
Imagine if you could maintain a firm hold of your operations from anywhere. People's Bank Online Corporate Banking. Imagine business anywhere.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Minister Mahinda Amarapeta has decided to stop the settlement of people and cultivation activities on elephant corridors, which is one of the main causes of conflict between elephants and humans. It is also planned to prepare suitable elephant corridors for elephants to move about with safety by next year. The Wildlife Department said there are 16 elephant corridors in our country, which are under threat due to human activities. That ends main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watch Life is brought to you by
Tertiary and Vocational Education Commission.
The Department of Examinations has extended the time granted to school and private applicants to submit applications for the General Information Technology examination. The Department of Examinations announced that the new deadline to apply for the examination is November 25th. The department said only the students who studied in grade 12 in 2019, 2020, 2021 and 2022 can apply for the GIT examination this time. The date of the examination will be notified later. That ends Watchlight.
Are you employed, self-employed or in business? Achieve career goals by gaining an NVQ certificate for full vocational qualifications with experience in your field through recognition of prior learning, RPL, or NVQ competency unit certificate through the flexible learning mode for a vocational competency unit. For further details, inquire the skills development officers, career guidance officers in your nearest divisional secretariat offices or the registered and accredited training providers in public or private sector. Visit www.tvec.gov.lk for further information. This is
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
We give you the strength to rise higher and higher.
Never step back, but always march forward.
Empowering you to reach greater heights. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
World News headlines first. The battle for control of Congress in the U.S. midterm elections is hanging in the balance. France sells time on anti-jihadist operation in Sahel. Stunningly preserved bronze statues found in Italy. World News in detail. As results continue to come in, Republicans currently have the most seats in the House of Representatives. They have 199 seats, while the Democrats have 173. But the Republicans still need 22 seats to ensure control of the House, and they say they are confident they can achieve that. Republicans are likely to take control of the House of Representatives, according to projections, but the Senate fight is on a knife edge. President Macron will use a speech in Toulon today to bring to an official end France's 8-year anti-jihadist operation in the Sahel. Operation Barkhane has been inoperative since February, when France announced its military withdrawal from Mali. The last French troops left their base in the Malian town of Gao in 15 August. According to the Elysee Palace, Mr. Macron wants to spell out new priorities that from now on will govern military interventions in Africa. Italian archaeologists have unearthed 24 beautifully preserved bronze statues in Tuscany believed to date back to ancient Roman times. The statues were discovered under the muddy ruins of an ancient bathhouse in the San Cassiano dei Bagni, a hilltop town in the Siena province, about 160 kilometers north of the capital Rome, depicting Hygeia, Apollo, and other Greco-Roman gods. The features and figures are said to be around 2,300 years old. One expert said the find could rewrite history. To wrap up the world news, let's take a look at the headlines once again. The battle for control of Congress in the U.S. midterm elections is hanging in the balance. France calls time on anti-jihadist operation in Sahel. Stunningly preserved bronze statues found in Italy. That ends world news.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
Amidst all challenges, we will rally around you and advance.
In the face of hardships, let's stand strong together.
Empowering you to reach greater heights. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Moving on to development news, the Republic of Korea, through the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United States, is investing $1.2 million to strengthen shrimp aquaculture in Sri Lanka. The investment is part of the global project implemented by the FAO in Sri Lanka, with a total investment of $3.9 million. The project will be implemented over a 3-year period to ensure effective biosecurity in shrimp aquaculture through the digital technology. Through the project, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations will build national capacity on various aspects that will support the sustainable development of the shrimp aquaculture sector. That ends development news. Moving on to sports news. Cricket. Pakistan won the first semi-final match of the T20 World Cup, beating New Zealand by 7 wickets in Sydney today and qualified for the finals. Batting first, New Zealand scored 152 for 4 wickets in 20 overs. Daryl Mitchell was not out on 53. His innings included 1 six and 3 boundaries. Shaheen Shah Afridi took 2 wickets, giving away 24 runs. Pakistan has allowed only 54 runs over the last 6 overs of the innings. Despite New Zealand having 7 wickets in hand at the start, in reply, Pakistan won the match by scoring 153 for 3 wickets in 19.1 overs. Captain Babar Azam scored 53 runs. Mohammad Rizwan scored 57. There were a couple of late starters, but Pakistan was deserved winners. More sports news. The Sydney magistrate today decided to allow the media to publish the facts in the case against Sri Lankan cricketer Dhanushka Gunathilaka. The magistrate lifted the suppression order imposed earlier on the media after taking into account an appeal. Sydney Morning Herald reported that the lawyers representing Nine, News Corp and ABC argued against the suppression. The Sydney police then withdrew their suppression application in its entirety. The next hearing of the case has been fixed for January 12th. That ends the sports news.
The fastest way to earn the highest interest, an interest rate of 22% in 4 months. NSB, the safest place for your money.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Gaia Green Energy Group has entered into 2 agreements with the Board of Investment to install rooftop solar systems for 100 megawatts worth $61 million of investment in the Central Province and the North Central Province. In Phase 2 of these projects, the capacity and investment would double to 200 megawatts and $182 million to be completed within 18 months. That ends Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The fastest way to earn the highest interest, an interest rate of 22% in 4 months. NSB, the safest place for your money.
Moving on to economic news, earnings from exports remained robust in September 2022, while import expenditure declined for the 7th consecutive month on a year-on-year basis, reflecting the significant reduction in imports of non-food consumer goods and investment goods. The merchandise trade deficit recorded a notable contraction in September 2022. Earnings from tourism recorded an increase in September 2022 compared to the same period in 2021. That ends economic news. Finally, moving on to the weather report. The Met Department says the low-level atmospheric disturbance in the southeast of Sri Lanka has intensified into a low-pressure area. It is likely to develop further during next 48 hours. Therefore, rainy conditions over most parts of the island will expect to enhance. Showers or thundershowers will occur at times in eastern, over, northern and north-central provinces and in Mathura district. Showers or thundershowers will occur elsewhere during the night. Heavy showers above 100 mm can be expected at some places in northern, north-central, eastern, suburban and southern provinces. That ends the weather report. To wrap up the evening news on Radio Sri Lanka, let's take a look at the headlines once again. The central bank says Sri Lanka's economy shows signs of stability. United Arab Emirates and Sri Lanka discuss using renewable energy to meet the country's energy needs. Saudi Arabia agrees to recruit more Sri Lankans for construction and health sectors. State Minister Ranjit Simbalapitia says more funds have been allocated by the budget for social welfare. Foreign news, the battle for control of Congress in the U.S. midterm elections is hanging in the balance. Sports news, Pakistan qualifies for the final of the T20 World Cup by beating New Zealand. That ends the evening news broadcast on Radio Sri Lanka.